last night was a good episode. It certainly was an opportunity to start now looking at who's playing well, who's playing in ways about which I have questions. And I may jump around a bit this morning, but I'll try and go through some of my thoughts as the show unfolded. One of the first things I noticed was when the episode started, the music was interesting, unique, different. And I like it. I like the music. I like the choices that somebody made, but I don't know how much it connects me with Survivor the way that consistent Survivor theme did for so many years. And I kind of miss that. I don't know if anybody notices or has the same feeling, but for me, the theme was a very consistent, very Survivor-oriented, and I know maybe Jeff's trying to grow past that or something. And the music that is being used is certainly good music. I am drawn to it as I hear it, but it's not screaming Survivor. It doesn't get my blood flowing the way that theme that connects me with Survivor does. It was really interesting to me last night when Adam gave back his half of the idol that Denise had given to him. So he gave the half that she gave him back to her. And I know that part of the requirement was that Denise give away half of the idol. And in order for it to be played, activated, if you will, they had to be used together. But what I didn't realize was that there was no constraint on the amount of time that half was separated from the other half. So Denise gave it to Adam, and Adam gave it back. Interesting to me. Now she's got the fully activated both pieces of the idol, and it's usable. I get it now. I had been thinking another person had to keep it, and then that person had to use it when Denise used it in order for it to be activated, which would make it a little more complicated, a little tougher. There'd be some tension around the idea of whether or not the person you thought you could trust was actually going to use it right then at that tribal council when you wanted it used. But that's not the way it works, I guess, because he gave it back to her, and now she's got a fully operational idol. Good for her. I really love Denise. She's an incredible person. I'm talking about outside the game. I've never played with her inside the game, but I do like her mind. I like watching the way she plays the game and watching the delicateness with which she engages other participants, other survivors. I don't know that those people are aware of all the thought that is taking place as Denise interacts with them. But I know her brain a little bit, and I'm sure there's a lot going on with every answer, with every response, with every question, with every engagement with other survivors. She's an interesting person and an interesting player. And there were a number of players last night who exhibited more skill. And I'll talk about that thing that I call skill in playing Survivor. They were thoughtful in a very meaningful way about the choices they were making, both who they're sharing comments with and ideas with, and how they're doing that. It became more obvious, more clear last night. Lots of people talk about Michelle not being a good winner. I think that's hogwash. She won. So by virtue of a jury deciding that you won, you deserve to win. Remember that, Russell? Anyway, she won. And now last night, I'm hoping people watched the calm, thorough, intentional thought Michelle was putting into her choices and her conversations with Jeremy. She was playing beautifully. In contrast, with what I think of as a frenetic flopping fish. Know who I'm talking about? I bet you do. Because he's just all over the place, and his freneticism, his angst is palpable, and it's distracting. And the worst part of all in a survivor game, it's not intentional. It's just a part of who he is. Yeah, I'm talking about Tony. But that happens with a number of personalities, even those people I sometimes talk about being good players. Sandra, for example, sometimes can't and does not contain her emotional reactions. And if they aren't, if the emotional reactions that participants exhibit to other players, aren't controlled and intentional, then they're very, very dangerous. And it's just kind of luck as to whether or not they cause problems in one's game. And that happens sometimes, I think, with Sandra. She's a loose cannon if something triggers her anger or her frustration, and you never really know what's going to come out. But you do see it sometimes when she interacts with others. I don't mind seeing any of that, all of it, all the emotion, all the expression that any participant wants is fine to show with the viewers. But when it's just happening haphazardly with the other contestants, red flags go up in my mind, and I start thinking, oh, how's that going to affect those people over there? Where are we headed with this? Fun for me, figuring it all out. I hope it is for you too. So early in the show last night, Adam is shown as playing hard, really moving, making moves, talking to different groups, and he tells Ethan that he's considering voting off Parvati. It appears in what was shown that Adam contemplated the effect that might have on Rob when he told Rob, and on Ethan when he told Ethan. But I'm not so sure that Adam's calculus was well thought through. I think telling those two that he was planning to take out Parvati and that he'd already talked to other people about it, and that in fact he was doing that so that his alliance with Rob and his longer, better relationship with Ethan could be better and stronger and more long lasting, and, you know, let's take her out instead of you, it just isn't the kind of approach I would take with either Ethan or Rob. I know Ethan's loyal, so I wouldn't do that with Ethan. And I know Rob is vicious, so I wouldn't do that with Rob. And I don't think there was a need to do that. So I think although Adam may have been trying to make moves, which sometimes in Survivor you need to do, I think it's also very, very important to know when not to make moves. I think any one of those three, Ethan, Rob, or Parvati, could have been taken out last night. But not that way. Not in the way Adam approached it. And that's something I don't know that viewers think about thoroughly enough. So you see what does take place and you see what Adam did do, but think about what might have happened or how the episode may have unfolded were Adam not to have engaged that way, to have been so hard, playing so hard, so obviously. I'm not sure what would happen, but I think some powerful players may have been able to be removed. One of the reasons I think Adam's playing hard was problematic is that I'm not sure he understands the bonds and the relationships among some of the players. I was at Ethan's wedding with Parvati. Parvati and I were at Ethan's wedding. What do you think that would say about the connection between Ethan and Parvati? I don't know. I just think those kinds of risks, telling Ethan that you're targeting poverty, are problematic and not worth the risk, at least not in the context of last night's episode. A little bit about Tyson last night. It's funny. You could see how he was feeling targeted and just looking to point that target in any direction at anybody else. The Sandra mode. I don't care who it is, as long as it isn't me. And that's fine. I think that's a good part of Survivor. I think he's really looking to feel more settled and doesn't like this place that he's in right now, where he's not necessarily, it doesn't appear, in control. And I like watching him try and figure out how to move forward, how to make moves or not. Evidence of Tyson playing well, in my mind, was depicted as he made proposals to Yul and Sophie. Again, two good players. Yul is a great player. Sophie's a really great player. They understand the concept of the game, and you're not seeing a lot of Sophie. You're not seeing a lot of Yul. This is an interesting edit. It's very difficult to guess whether or not there's kind of a reverse psychology or a reverse psychology or a reverse psychology by the editors. It gets silly when you start to try and second guess what it is that you're being exposed to, what things the editors are showing you. And we're seeing so little of Yul and Sophie, a couple other players, that I am wondering what's coming for them. I don't think they're non-interesting players or not playing. I know Yul is thinking. He's a thoughtful, really intelligent player. So is Sophie. And so I'm intrigued by what they might be doing and what might come from them. I'm hoping there's lots to come. But I love that Tyson made the proposal to Yul and Sophie, and that's evidence of his awareness of people with whom good strategies might be developed and played out, I think. Oh, my. This fella that I keep talking about, because you can't help but watch what looks like a train wreck to me. Tony, how dare he deal with a shark? Any difference, do you think, between the way he handled the shark last night and my handling of a shark? Oh my gosh, he's flopping around, dancing around, holding that thing. I mean, again, just like his win, like by chance, he made it to the end. By chance, he made it without the shark, twisting around like I had shown him happens and latching on to bite him. But it didn't do it, and shark really, really is delicious. So that's pretty creative of them to have used the net and to have gotten a shark. But they're very easy to control, particularly on land. And for him to have it by the end and just shaking it around, I was giggling, I must say, as I was watching it, hoping that there was going to be some contact made. I talked a little bit about Sandra's kind of emotional reactions. And last night, her quote, "If you come after me, I better not find out about it." Poor Tyson, if she puts him in her sights, because she is singularly focused, sometimes at the expense of what might be a good move, when somebody, from her perspective, wrongs her. We'll see how that plays out. But I thought it was funny last night, just the way she so solidly reacts and emotionally closes off possibilities once she makes a decision about somebody. I think that's one of her vulnerabilities that I would exploit like a madman if I had the opportunity to. How can they not have me on this episode? I know I'm smiling and kind of giggling and laughing about it, but damn it, Probst, bad decision, bad, silly, bad. In that same segment where Sandra is talking about, if you target me, I better not find out about it, she makes it clear that this is her last appearance on Survivor, that she's retiring after this. Do you believe her? We don't see lots of footage on Extinction Island. Is it Extinction? No. We don't see lots of footage on Extinction Island. Of course, it's not Extinction Island. It's Edge of Extinction. But I don't know why that's what keeps coming to my head all the time when I think about it. Oh, they're on Extinction Island. We don't see a lot of footage there. But the footage that we do see is interesting because there's this whole other really strong, desperate almost game going on amongst the people who've landed on the edge of extinction. And that does give us an opportunity to see some of what happens once you're out of the main game. I like that there are people, really wanting back in, recognizing that there's still a shot they could continue the game. And I've got to hand it to Natalie. Although, they're all playing, but Amber's playing hard. But Natalie is successful so far out there. And watching the glee with which she intelligently found those numbers for the lock and destroyed the numbers so that others wouldn't know that she'd found them was just good Survivor play. When you think about, now the others won't get those numbers, and somebody's going to be, at a disadvantage when somebody does this or that. That's good Survivor play. I know personally, outside of the game, you don't want to do that to people. You don't want to undermine their chances at success. You want to build people up and all those other things. But Survivor is about chopping people's limbs off one by one. And there aren't a lot of people who capably are willing to do what it takes to get to the end. And so I really, really enjoy good, solid, unapologetic Survivor gameplay. And that's what we saw last night on the Edge of Extinction from Natalie. I enjoyed it. You've heard me say, and my perspective is that Sarah is a really good player. She's really capable, she's really competent, she's very thoughtful, and I still have to keep putting an asterisk, boom, at the end of that. Because what advantage did Sarah think possibly? What did she imagine was the possible advantage of telling Tony and incorporating him into preparing for her to go over to steal the advantage that she knew was at the other camp and she could sneak over at night and get? I don't get it. I don't see how telling Tony benefited Sarah. I understand that as part of an alliance that she must have with him, this cops are us thing, there's some benefit sometimes to sharing information. But the timing of that, when a good Survivor player shares information, is critical, crucial. So I don't believe that there was any benefit to Sarah having shared that information before she had the opportunity to go do that. She didn't get any advantage from Tony putting spit on charcoal on her face. That's really nonsense. That's drama. That's part of the, look, we're doing stuff on Survivor. That's not really affecting the game. Sarah needed to sneak over there, get that done. And I think then, after that had happened, she'd be in a position to either share with Tony or anyone else what happened or not. Choose not to. You never know. They made it look as if Sarah's telling Tony was beneficial, but he couldn't even go to the other camp with Sarah. Sarah went alone on the boat, snuck in, completed the task, got her advantage, and headed home without being noticed. Tony did not benefit her in any way, and now Tony knows she has that advantage unnecessarily. I don't know. That bothers me when there's a play moved that isn't valuable. I wonder what's going on in the player's mind. So that just makes me wonder, come on, Sarah, I know you're a great player, but why? Why share ahead of time something you have no benefit from that early? You could share later if you wanted to. You could even tell him, hey, they picked me up on the boat and took me over there and gave me that opportunity. I'm not sure how that happened. I think you took a hit last night. That's all. I don't think it was necessary. I think in my mind now I have to pay closer attention to the choices you're making. I know you're a good player, but are you great? How many of you giggled when Jeff asked, who's sitting out in the last challenge? Sandra, practically giddy, jumps up, I am, Jeff. That's her mode, right? That is her mode. Yeah, no, I don't need to play the challenge. I'll sit out. It somehow isn't harming her. But it's funny to watch. I thought that was great filming, really good footage. After the final challenge, when there were these very still, quiet, lengthy shots of individuals on the team that lost the challenge prior to tribal council, just sitting. No conversation, no interaction, lots going on in every one of those players' heads. I enjoyed that footage. Let's talk a little bit about the strategizing that finally began and that took place prior to that tribal council. Obviously, the editing of the show is going to leave possibilities in your mind for it to be more than one player who's voted off. And I certainly enjoyed the back and forth of whether it's Parvati or is it going to be Ethan? Can we take out that third power player among Rob, Parvati, and Ethan? I'll talk about that one in a minute. But what about Adam? There was lots of editing that showed how hard he played and how dangerously that could land him with respect to who was going home last night. So what do you think the calculus was? What do you think happened when Michelle and Jeremy decided to talk with the other folks and plan a definitive choice for who goes home last night? I'm a little concerned again about that choice with respect to good gameplay. We're season 40, episode 3. We're 3 episodes in, which is not far. Yet, there are still these iconically powerful players seemingly comfortably relaxing in their positions of power. It is obvious that Rob is in charge. He's making no bones about it. He's not hiding it. He's being bold and directive and almost obnoxious at times. Isn't that funny for me to be saying something like that? Irony, I know. But why haven't people removed him? There is no reason last night when Ethan gets voted out that Parvati couldn't have been, or Rob couldn't have been. Parvati or Rob or Ethan, what would have been your choice? Who would have been the most threatening to you longer term? Who would have been less valuable as the game is moving forward? I think if I were there, I would be valuable to someone with whom I'm in an alliance to hold on to and to keep there for a while, because I think I'm reliable and I think I'm effective in my methods with respect to other people's gameplay and helping them stay in and move forward as necessary. And I'm trustworthy to the extent that one needs to be within the game of Survivor in order to build reasonable alliances. But I don't know that that's the case, even with Parvati, but for sure with Rob. Yeah, he's certainly supportive of Parvati. I think that's out of desperation. You saw on his face when Adam came to him, oh, really? And all of that stuff that is theater with about Adam telling Rob that they were going to vote for Parvati. You saw him have an outward trouble with that kind of a vote. So there is some loyalty that was going on, you would imagine, inside Rob to keep Parvati there. But I think it's really about, well, what else would I do if she weren't, with me? Because who else could I rely on, given that this is season 40 and he does have a big target on his back? So I don't know. I just have to wonder, among the other players who are kind of playing it quietly, why Ethan would have been a choice over Parvati or Rob. Splitting those two up, I think, is a very important thing to do. One that other players are not going to have many chances to do, and I think could have been done with really minor repercussions last night that could alter the game for some of these other good players were one of those gone. That's my thought about last night. Plus, I really am a good friend of Ethan's, and I love him, and I wish he were still in the main game. He'll do what he can on the edge of extinction, but really, once you're over there, the chances are not favorable for you to get back in the game and win. Somebody will get back in the game, but even that person that gets back in the game is going to have a hard time amongst winners winning the game. Hey, you! Yeah, you! Watching the video, you thought it was over. No, you got a job to do. Click the like button and subscribe right below. Come on, get on it now! And feel free to comment. Go ahead, tell me how arrogant I am. Tell me how much you can't stand this or that. I'll listen. Comment away.